Ladies, gentlemen, and Roger ages, the PTR for Season 12 is wrapping up today, and so it seems like the right time to do our regular sort of roundup of what's going on with the classes and the builds going into Season 12 based on what players have been doing on the PTR and what the findings seem to be. However, in most seasons we have a lot more going on. That to say, I will quickly go through the builds to watch out for each class based on the public test realm info, with the caveat that this is all subject to change based on patches that will happen between now and the full release of the season. But mostly, I want to talk about the season itself, what Season 12 is looking to be, what it means, and my thoughts on whether you should play this one or not. That said, starting off with things among the classes right now, 4 of the classes seem to be sitting around the same power level, being Necromancer, whose strongest builds are the triple golem build that started last season, and also Shadow Blight focused builds at very equivalent levels of power too. Right around that same point of power as Necro is Sorcerer with Crackling Energy build, just like last season, with the same situation for them where other Sorcerer builds are just sort of heavily behind that as well. Rogue is also around that same point of power with the Heartseeker basic skill build as well, for Pit and Tower specifically at least, with Death Trap build not being particularly far behind, but definitely better suited for the things that aren't Pit or Tower. Then Barbarian is pretty much in the same area, same build as last season as well, specifically meaning Lunging Strike focused Barbarian and Hammer of the Ancients focused Barbarian too, and then Spiritborn is still in the same range as those classes too, with the strongest build specifically being the Payback Thorns focused build that was doing extremely well recently on live servers too. Then at the very top of the barrel, it's Druid with their classic Poison Puddle Pulverize build, and then Paladin with like 5 different builds focused around the concept of 100% uptime on Arbiter of Justice, and the aspect of Ascendance and aspect of Celestial Strife, so scaling off of that too, with the builds looking like Thorns, Blessed Shield, Aura Paladin, Wing Strikes Paladin, which I'm personally a massive fan of, and variations of Judgment Paladin as well, though they are suffering a touch from the nerfs to Spear of the Heavens, and to be clear, Paladin as a whole did get quite a hefty nerf from the Castle Legendary Paragon node being worded differently and thus capped at a much more reasonable bonus in comparison to what it was before, which basically means the entire power level of the class across all of the builds is much more in line with the other classes, at least in theory, but there are still a number of viable builds inside of that so long as you are willing to build around Arbiter of Justice and stacking buffs related to Arbiter as the sort of damage increasing engine of your builds. All that to say, 5 out of the 6 classes are very minorly changed this season. The top builds are still the top builds for those classes, and the biggest difference realistically is that we are now losing Sanctification, so the power and fun of the Sanctification system will be missing from those builds, which is a bit unfortunate, but that is the way of seasonal mechanics. Paladin got some slightly more meaningful changes to them, but on the whole, the top builds are still the top builds, it's just shuffling around the specific ones that will be at the very height of it all. It's more so the full class spanning nerf that matters and is a genuinely helpful change for the health of the game. So to put it simply, if you are looking for a new build to play this season compared to the last few seasons, the only way to really achieve that is to play a class that you normally don't play. So with that, let's talk about the seasonal mechanics as well. The actual game affecting things are bloodied activities, and this includes lair bosses, nightmare dungeons, undercity, and infernal hordes, and the actual effect is that it makes the activity generically harder. It adds Relentless Butcher to any activity that this effect is actually on, which is essentially just a higher power version of the regular Butcher, except he chases after you near permanently. If you kill him, another one will spawn quite quickly, which is fun in concept, but in practice, you either are strong enough that you destroy the Butcher every time he shows up without any issues, or you aren't strong enough to do that and he will eat you. Anything in between that, and it would definitely feel a little bit off. For boss lairs specifically, you also get Nightmare Portals, which spawn random enemies during the activity, and that's a neat bonus too, and the bloodied version of the lair bosses don't require the normal keys to get the rewards from after either. It's just a free loot drop if you have the sigil and then beat it. For the other activities, it is much simpler. It's just a Butcher chasing you around while you do the activity nice and simple with a higher difficulty level as a whole. Beyond that, there's also the Killstreak mechanic, which simply counts up the number of kills that you get in a row without stopping for too long. The timer extends when you deal direct damage to an enemy, so you only really lose the streak if you exit combat completely. However, it's worth noting that this happens in the pit sometimes, whether you like it or not. You just will lose the actual kill streak because enemies are spaced out enough between packs for the kill streaks to end, and things like backtracking in between things like having to go up to another floor or find other enemies on the same floor, that will also end your kill streak, which matters because the kill streaks are tied to bloodied items, give you bonus effects based on your kill streak, with the effect of some of them being stagnant, the effect of others being based on your kill streak tier, and the effect of others just being something that pops up after you do kill enough enemies. The type of bloodied affix depends on the equipment slot type. Jewelry has hunger bloodied affixes, which are generally related to drops and drop chance, things like increased gold drop from enemies, increased runes from enemies, increased bloodied items themselves drop from enemies as well, and it can specialize into the different bloodied affix types too, which is quite helpful. On armor, there are the rampage bloodied affixes, which is actual offensive boosters like crit chance or cooldown reduction or resource management, and these all scale the bonuses that they have off of the tier of the kill streak you have active. So the more enemies that you have killed within your current streak, they get stronger. And a note that bloodied affixes can actually be greater affixes as well if you do have them drop that way. And they do otherwise count as regular affixes in every other way too, so you can boost them from masterworking as well and get the masterworking crit on that affix too. When a weapon is bloody, the affix type is called feast instead, and this just basically causes an effect to happen, generally offensive related, every time that you get a certain set number of kills, which is again depending on the effect. It ranges from things like gain berserking, proc flat damage attacks every once in a while, or things like reset a cooldown or apply vulnerable, all of those types of things, which are actually pretty decent to have if you can permanently just keep them active, obviously. Any item then has a chance to be bloodied, whether it's legendary, unique, mythic, and to put it simply, the actual effects from these are a little bit odd to work around for proper endgame pushing style gameplay at least, because they are built around the concept of Killstreak. Every class has builds strong enough that you will plow over anything that isn't pit or tower without even having killstreaks active, and with killstreaks being unreliable in the pit and the tower, that means this is more geared towards all other types of content. That being said, the main thing that this boosts is your upper mid-tier builds, the ones that are good but not great for things like if you want to run around Helltide or spam Infernal Hordes on Torment 4 with a build that in previous seasons might have been struggling to get past Torment 3. It'll make those much stronger in that sense. While we're gearing up initially as well, I do expect bloodied items to feel pretty solid if we're able to get them at any reasonable amount, but then they will probably fall off long term unless the devs buff the hell out of them between now and the full season release. Aside from that, there are the new unique items as well, and these are generally interesting concepts. All of them are usable by multiple classes, but generally they are just way weaker than they need to be to see proper use. And so the combination of all of these things put together puts the season in a pretty weird place, which is then exacerbated by this season only being around a month and a half long, and then immediately followed by an expansion that promises to be a massive change to Diablo 4 as a whole. So in my mind, as of this moment, with what we have seen and what we know, Season 12 is sort of just going to be more of the same Diablo 4 loop that we've had for a few seasons now. The same builds for a lot of the classes at the top as well, and the actual season mechanic is much less impactful than either the Sanctification in Season 11 or the Chaos Uniques and Chaos Perks of Season 10, which are both really solid seasonal power-ups too. The way that I look at this is it's like a victory lap. It's a last hurrah of what Diablo is before we have an expansion that could completely change the game at a fundamental level. That to say, if you are someone who loves how Diablo 4 plays right now, how it plays currently, if you love the way that the builds work and you love the gameplay loop from season to season, then you should totally engage with Season 12 because it's just not going to be the same after Season 12 ends. But if you are the opposite end of that, if you're someone who's a bit tired of the same builds and tired of the current gameplay loop, this could be the right time to take a bit of a break and then try to make yourself nice and fresh in time for the expansion if you are interested in playing that when that happens. At least that's my general suggestion. This season will exist for 6 weeks, and you can either spend that 6 weeks in the last iteration of this current version of Diablo 4 before it's gone, or you can spend it taking a bit longer of a break away from Diablo, because time away from things makes the heart grow fonder, whatever it is exactly that they say. That just about does it for today, then, everyone. Tomorrow I'll probably have more Diablo to talk with you all, but in a very different context, as we know that the developers have some pretty big announcements to make regarding the other new class tied to the expansion. And while I am personally definitely a bit underwhelmed with Season 12, I am still very much intrigued by the amount of change promised with the expansion itself. I hope you've all enjoyed the video, and let me know your own thoughts on this stuff in the comments down below. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet. Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.